walk with me for a minute since we walking? Come on. Are there any igniters in the room? I thought y'all came to set a fire in here. Come on.
Why should you rush your way through life?
Come on. Yes. I love it. I'm in Jamaica. I am so excited to be here. And since I've been here, it's just been just this story of igniting, right? Literally, the purpose of Women Ignite, I've seen, I've felt, I've experienced since I've been here. And even when I walked in the room and started to just kind of feel the room this morning, the Lord said there's something bubbling in here. Is anybody bubbling with something in here? You came and you know that you want to go ahead and make sure you step into that next level, step in your purpose, step into all that God has called you to be and do, and you're just ready for the tip so you can take off. Let's go then. Let's go. I'm so excited because this is what I call a promise fulfilled. And I want to tell you this quick story because I believe that I want to start with the end just to get back to the beginning, okay? So it was the end of August last year, 2023, and when I tell you I'm sitting in this conference just like you, I get a prophetic word, and the prophet came up to me and he said, "You're about to go global." He said, "God is about to take you global." And I said, okay, all right, you received the word, sowed my seed on the word because I believe in sowing, right, on my words. And so I sowed my seed on the word. And then September comes of last year, September 1st, and I began to hear the Lord tell me to come into agreement with the word. See, oftentimes we don't see the prophecy fulfilled because we hadn't come into agreement with what God called us to do and the word that he set forth. And so the Lord began to tell me to come into agreement with the word. So every morning, starting on September 1st of last year, I would get up and I said, "Good morning, Global Kingdom CEO." Speaking to myself, okay? "Good morning, Global Kingdom CEO." And I would look at myself, and all of a sudden, I started to have the audacity to do something different. Because, baby, when you're global, you don't have time for all the little to-dos. You have to go ahead and mark some things out. You have to go ahead and make different decisions, right? And every single morning, my mindset began to shift because I had the audacity to step into agreement with the word that God had given me. And so about a month later, I get this message from Katie Ann and Kenesha, and they invite me to Jamaica. And I said, well, come on, God, like here we are. I've been saying this for an entire 30 days now, and here it is, the invite showed up in my inbox. The very word that God had just given me, right? So I continued to work the word because how many of you all know that you don't need to just read the word, you need to work the word, okay? So I continued to work the word. I started to change my mindset to make sure that I knew and understood what global felt like, right? And so when I stepped foot off that plane in Jamaica, I said, baby, here I am. Can I just tell you that literally this is what purpose is? I went from prophecy to promise in 6 months. From prophecy to promise. And when I tell you that I have Kenesha to thank for that, the reason why is because she walked in her purpose, I can walk in mine. Because she walked in her purpose, I can walk into my promise. Can I just start with the end and say your purpose ain't about you? The moment that you begin to step into your purpose and you begin to walk that thing out, it unlocks somebody else. Your obedience unlocks somebody else. And so that's the thing. I want to just give her flowers because she literally ushered me in to a promise from God. Let me tell you something. Look at your neighbor and tell him, I'm about to usher somebody in. Come on. That's what we got to do. So the Lord speaks to me at 11:59. And so at 11:59, last night, he began to give me a few steps that I want to share with you today. And I want to teach it, but I also want to just flow, right? Is it okay if I just flow? So the Lord started talking to me about the journey to purpose, right? And helping me understand what he wanted you to know today. And one of the first things he told me for my note takers in the room, I'll go ahead and give you all 3 points and I'll go back through them, is that before we get to purpose, okay, we got to go from potential to purpose. From potential to purpose. After potential to purpose, we go from purpose to permission. Ooh, I feel anointed on that. You go from purpose to permission. And after permission, you go from permission to provision. See, the problem is we were trying to get to the provision, before we do the steps ahead, okay? So those are the 3 main points, but I'll give you a couple as we go along. So can I just say and remind you that you were conceived with a purpose. You were conceived with a purpose. You already knew, right? When you were born, God knew your purpose already. Not only did he conceive you with that purpose, you were conceived with gifts, talents, skills, abilities, right? Not only were you conceived with that, but you were also conceived and made in his image. So if you were made in his image, I really want you to think about that potential. It doesn't matter what you have in you already. It's already bred and bled in purpose. Okay, so literally the foundation of everything that you are is purposeful because God is a creator and he created you. So therefore you walk in a divine creation, right? And you are a creator as well. So when you think about that potential first, oftentimes people who come to me and they say, you know what, I'm not sure of my purpose yet. Most of the time, those are my multi-talented, multifaceted, multi-passionate people. Why? Because you got so many things you're doing that you don't know which one to choose, right? Is there anybody in the room? Am I stepping on their toes already? Just a couple of y'all? So you have so many things and you're not sure exactly what to choose yet. But what if I told you that God will use all of it? God uses all of those things. He doesn't waste anything. God will use even your mess and turn it into a message. God will use your pain and turn it into purpose. God can use all the little things that you had no idea were even being cultivated, right? I remember when God started to call me and I thought, why in the world, God, did you choose me? I was laying on my floor one night, head to the back. I'm talking about laid out. And I was just looking at the sky and I'm like, Lord, why did you choose me? I thought about all the things, right? Like, why did you choose me? And God began to take me through what felt like a highlight reel of all the negative things that I had done. The Lord showed me at the club. The Lord showed me in college. The Lord showed me all of these negative things. And I thought, ooh, it's getting a little petty in here. God, like I thought you were my father. So what he showed me, though, is that even in the midst of these things, I was still cultivating you. Right? For purpose. The Lord showed me, he said, you know what? You've always been an influencer. I just needed you to influence them in my name. You've always been a leader. I just needed you to lead them in my name. Yeah, I was leading them to the club. I needed you to lead them in my name. And so I appointed you and anointed you for such a time as this, not for you to do all the things you were doing, but for you to do them for my kingdom. Right? So I want you to just kind of scan your brain for all the things, right, that you've been experiencing, the things that you've gone through, knowing and understanding that God can use all of those things and he will use all of those things for purpose. Okay? You are walking and operating in purpose. And one of the things that I know for sure is that God will use everything. Okay? Even the little things as well. I asked God, I said, well, God, show me somebody in your word who really had to figure out what that potential was in order to walk in purpose. And the Lord showed me David. And I said, Lord, this is a women's conference. Like, give me a female, a woman in the Bible. No, he said David, okay? So I want us to think about David for a second as we think about purpose and we think about potential, okay? When you think about potential, I said David, he was that dude. David served, David was seen, and David stood. As I went through the scriptures, 1 Samuel 16, I noticed that David served, David was seen, and David stood. This is as we think about that potential and how God can pull that potential out and really make it purpose for my note takers. The first thing that I noticed was that David served. David served using his gift to serve someone else's vision. Can I tell you that when you begin to get in the place of servanthood, there is nothing like serving somebody else's vision. I always say there ain't nothing like getting provision, you get it by serving somebody else's vision, okay? When you begin to serve, you begin to see, understand yourself even the more. So if you're in a place where you really want to move into purpose, serve somebody else's vision. Serve somebody else's vision. But here's the thing, you can't hide behind somebody else's vision. Okay, you want to serve there, you want to learn there, you want to grow there, you want to be cultivated there. But listen, when it is time for you to come out of hiding and be highlighted, you need to come out, right? When God begins to call you. So one of the first things you want to do in order to move your potential to purpose is to serve. All right. Then you want to be seen. You want to be seen. 1 Samuel 16, 17 through 18 really helps us understand how David was seen. And he was seen because they were actually looking for someone. So Saul, of course, was going through evil spirits. Evil spirits had come upon Saul. And they were looking for someone who could play the harp. They were looking for someone who can play string instruments. And the Bible is so good because it literally says, I have seen a son of Jesse. That tells me that David was already doing his gift, walking in his gift, walking in his purpose enough for somebody to see it. Can I just tell you, in order to be seen, that means you got to do the thing that God has called you to do. You can't sit still on it. You can't sit on it. You got to actually do the thing, right? And so some of you already know, because God showed me last night, have been sitting on the very gift, the very anointing, the very thing that he has actually called you to be seen in. Because you're like, I don't want to do this, and I don't know what people going to think, and listen, we putting all that to the side, okay? We're walking boldly in the things that God has called us to do. Why? Because this is your season of being seen. Did we just not talk about accelerating? Kanisha came up here talking about accelerating. Baby, you will be seen. The other thing that I noticed, too, about David is, as it relates to purpose and moving from potential to purpose, is that he stood boldly in his assignment. Boldly in his assignment. He stood in his assignment. And one of the things that I notice often, even when I'm working with my clients, they come and they're like, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but they lack that confidence just a little bit, right? Just a little bit. Like I want to get in a position, but I also kind of want to hide a little bit. Let me just tell you that this is your season to stand boldly in the things that God has called you to do. If you're going to move that potential and move into purpose, baby, you can't be shaken and you cannot be moved. You stand firm in the position that God has given you, and you take hold of that thing boldly, okay? Tell your neighbor, I'm taking hold boldly. Can I just declare and decree that God is trying to transform your potential into purpose? And there's some things in you, there's some things in your mind, there's some things in your spirit, and you've been wondering, how in the world am I going to turn this into anything? There's some things in your hands, you've been wondering, how in the world am I going to get the resources? But God is trying to use that very thing, and God is saying, if you just trust me with it, I've already positioned you to move in it. I've already positioned you from purpose to, from potential to purpose, but I need you to be positioned in that thing. I need you to be positioned in that thing. Listen. One of the other things that God began to help me understand is that when we move into purpose, baby, you start giving yourself permission. You start giving yourself permission. You start giving yourself permission to walk out the audacity. You remember how I said I started to get up every morning and start to call myself Global Kingdom CEO? Listen, I was giving myself the permission to walk into that next level, to change my mindset and to see myself the way that God has already seen me. You want to give yourself permission to pull down exactly what has already been seen. It's happened in the spirit already, baby. We just bringing it to the natural, okay? And so when you think about permission, I really want you to consider, what have you given yourself permission for? What have you given yourself permission for? Thank you, Lord. What have you given yourself permission for? Can I just tell you, it's in the power of your tongue. It's in the power of your words. It's in the power of your mind. And it's in the power of the agreement to come alongside God to say, you know what? You've already said it, so I'm going to give myself permission to step into what you've already said. I'm giving myself permission. Woo. The more I started to give myself permission over time, not just, when I started calling myself Global Kingdom CEO, but even over time, as I'm walking in purpose, the more I started giving myself permission to come into agreement with what God had already said, you know what happened? I started walking in what I call pressure. Pressure. Y'all know that song? Who she thinks she is? Pressure. And every time I showed up, I decided that I was going to bring pressure. I was not only going to walk boldly in the things that God had called me to do, but I was going to walk with pressure and to stand up and say, you know what? Nothing will alter my mindset on this. Nothing will alter what God has done. And so I'm going to stand up and walk in the pressure that God has given me. Pressure is something that will shift the room. Even when I walked in this, when I saw some room shifters up in here, okay? Some room shifters. Because when you walk in, you walk heavy. Woo. You walk heavy. You come with authority. You come with dominion. I'm moving my shoulders because it just feels like a freedom that comes alongside this pressure that you walk in. Tell your neighbor, I came with pressure. Yes, you did. Pressure moves you into permission. It moves you into permission. And I had to define that thing because it kept playing in my mind over and over again. So I went over to my girl Google. I said, girl, define permission for me. Permission is defined as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing. It means consent or authorization. Consent or authorization. Let me tell you something. When you decide that you're going to go ahead and walk in your purpose and you give yourself permission, you just sign your name on a dotted line. You just authorized some stuff. You just gave heaven access. You just pulled down the anointing and what already belongs to you. You pulled down the royalties. The moment that you decided to give yourself permission. Purpose unlocks permission. It unlocks permission. And that means that you got to be authorized. Who has the authorization in here? Who has the authorization to begin to walk in a new level of permission? I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I need you to show me in your word somebody who walked in a new level of permission. Because once you start walking in purpose, you start to move into that next level of permission. And the Lord said, Esther. I said, ooh, that's good. Because we love us some Esther, don't we? We will preach Esther out. Oh, my God. He said, Esther. And he began to show me two things in particular about Esther. One was she controlled the story. Esther controlled the story. And then she controlled the strategy. Esther was strategic. Let's go story first. Because the Lord told me that this is one of the reasons, this is one of the things that you all are struggling with. And oftentimes it happens, right? Esther is about to be chosen to be the queen. And she's like, wait a minute. I don't even fit in here. I'm not one of y'all. That imposter syndrome started to creep up. Am I sure? Should I be here? Do I really belong here? She started asking questions, right? And oftentimes that's what happens in our minds. God began to show me that that's one of the things that is a struggle. That you get right to the place of permission. You get right on the cusp of the breakthrough. You get right there when it is time to step over into the promise. And then you start questioning your own permission. You start questioning who you are, what God called you to do, and what he called you to be. And I understand it's tough. But this is the time, ladies, that you got to step boldly into permission. Because when you start to step boldly into permission, you begin to contend some things. Anybody else a contender in here? Because the moment that I start to have things happening in my mind, I said, how dare you, enemy? I wish an enemy would try to come up on me, try to make me think something different about myself, try to make me think that I don't have what it takes, try to make me think, no, I'm going to contend up in here. Tell your neighbor, I'm a contender. I'm a contender. I start to fight some things. And every now and then that happens. One of the ways that the enemy tries to attack me is with the limiting beliefs. I've been working on this for years. And right when it's time for me to do something, you know what happens? He started to tell me all the reasons why I can't do it. And baby, I know it's normal for us ladies to just cry. We weep a little bit. We get a little sad. But I started to learn that weeping is good. Only one night, though. Come on, Sally Ann, you got me. Background singer. Only one night, though. Weeping is good, but what happens when you go from weeping to worrying? When you start to rise up in your authority, you start to rise up and you start to realize that he ain't even got no power. Clearly has absolutely no power. And one of the things that I began to do is I take me a sheet of paper. I write down on the left-hand side of that paper, I write down every single thing that the enemy is trying to tell me, every limiting belief, every doubt. I write everything on the left side of the paper. Sometimes I fill the whole paper up. But baby, I get to that right side. And I start to write everything that God said about me. I start to write the promises. I start to write the things that I know that God told me to do. And I rip that paper in half. I get rid of the left side and I stand on the right side. Can I just tell you that it's time to stand on the right side? It's time to stand on the right side. It's time to stand on the promises and walk in the permission that God has already granted you. Woo! Y'all some heavy hitters in the room. I need you to realize that. Not only was Esther the one who had to control the story, right? What was told. She had to control the story in her mind to know that she was already appointed for such a time as this, right? She also had to understand the strategy. Esther was strategic. If we're going to walk in permission, then we got to be strategic. We have to be strategic. We have to be the ones that say, you know what? I'm going to do this at the right time. And that's what I love about Esther. She's like, okay, listen, you going to grant my request? Okay, good. You going to grant my request? Got it. All right. We here. We at this banquet, but I'm going to wait till tomorrow. My request is for us to have another banquet tomorrow. That timing, right, was so strategic because she knew, she understood that if she waited, what would happen, right? How heart postures would change. And the Lord began to show me that even as women of purpose, sometimes we can be haste and we can move quickly into things, right? And so you got to be in a position where you start to move strategically. As a woman of permission, you want to move strategically in the things that God has called you to do. You want to know his divine timing. And for some of y'all, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That means being strategic about who you tell, about who you share it with, about who understands the dream, about who has your same level of faith, about the circles that you're creating. There's some things that God has given me and placed in my spirit. I'm like, whoop, can't talk about that right now. Right? Because there's some people around me who I love them to death, and that's okay, but they ain't got my same level of faith. I do crazy stuff in faith. I moved halfway across the country in 6 months in faith, right? So if they don't have my same level of faith, if they can't believe God on the same level that I do, if they ain't going to make a faith move and pull up when I pull up, then baby, my permission says that I got to be strategic about who I'm sharing that thing with, okay? Listen. It's time to walk in permission. And the Lord began to remind me that purpose gives you permission, even when you don't understand what's happening. Woo, that's what happens when you walk in obedience. Even when you don't understand what's happening, purpose begins to give you permission. I just shared on social media 2 days ago that I left my corporate job, my good 6-figure corporate job, okay? Where direct deposit was coming every other Friday. Every other Friday, I was set, okay? And on what felt like a random Monday at noon, God gave me permission. He said, you've been walking in your purpose long enough. You've been serving my kingdom long enough. He said, I will provide. I submitted that letter so fast, that was my last day. I ain't looked back since. And it sounded crazy. And I literally did not work for 5 months. And I keep telling people, they're like, well, how did you make it? Baby, I didn't miss a meal and I didn't miss a bill. Okay? It's because the permission that was on my life already, God said, all right, it's time to move, right? It's time to move. And what happens when you begin to walk in permission is that you get a different level of access to kingdom currency. Kingdom currency is not coins. You get a different level of access to kingdom currency. And things begin to happen that I had no idea were going to happen. Lined up, okay? I tell y'all, I ain't missed no bill and I ain't missed no meal. Permission gives you the reason to elevate. Permission ushers you into that acceleration. Permission, it ushers you in to gain the resources that you need. It ushers you in to say no to some things as well. Permission is what God places in you and on you through purpose that then leads you into provision. Into provision. That permission walked me into a provision that I had not, a level of provision, thank you, Holy Spirit, that I had not seen before. The 6-figure job meant nothing anymore because kingdom currency didn't have a cap. Kingdom currency does not have a cap. I have no idea where it came from. Baby, it came. I went on a whole 4-city tour that was paid for. People donating money, thousands at a time. Woo. I had somebody contact me and say, listen, and it's because of the yes, right? Tell your neighbor, it's because of the yes. When you say yes, the provision will come. The provision will come. I had somebody contact me one time and she said, listen, I had just spent $4,640, okay, on something. And I said, Lord, where the money coming from? Within 2 days, she literally sent me a message. She said, hey, the Lord is telling me to sow a $5,000 seed into your business, and I'm scared. I said, girl, I ain't. Go ahead. I know exactly what it's for, right? It's currency on a whole nother level because that's what permission grants you. Permission takes you into provision. And the problem is, we trying to start the opposite way around. We trying to get to the coins first or the provision first. There is nothing like kingdom provision. God said that he's given us the power to create wealth. He's given us the ability to create wealth. Well, how do we create that wealth? It's in our minds. It's with our gifts. It's with our talents. I'm crazy enough to believe if Jesus told Peter to go fishing and there he will find coins to pay the tax collector, then that tells me that Peter went and did the very thing that he was good at. He went and did the very gift, right, that he was good at, and there he found coins. For some of you all, it's an exchange that's about to happen. You're about to walk in your gifts and your purpose on a whole nother level, and there's an exchange that's going to happen. The moment that you start to exchange your gift, the moment that you start to exchange your currency, the moment that you start to exchange what God has placed on the inside of you, you will begin to trade in heaven. And you will see the provision that is attached to it because you decided to show up and use your gift. Your gift. Purpose is attached to provision. Tell your neighbor. Purpose is attached to provision. And what happens when we start to move in that place of provision? God began to show me the Proverbs 31 woman. I said, ooh, this is good. Proverbs 31 woman. He showed me 3 things about her. She was consistent. She was confident. And she understood currency. Because the Bible said her trading was profitable. So she was consistent. Anybody who rises every morning, which it were actually still at night, making sure their family is fed, making sure their maidens are fed. Listen, that's consistency. That is how your provision comes. When you're walking in purpose, when you're walking in permission, you begin to see provision through your consistency. That means some of y'all got to do a little bit more of being consistent. Right? You want to release something. You want to put something into the earth. You want to be consistent with it. You got to be a little bit more consistent with your prayer time. You got to be a little bit more consistent with your praise. For some of you on social media, you got to be a little bit more consistent with your posting. You got to be a little bit more consistent with putting yourself out there and allowing people to see exactly what it is that you have. Right? That consistency is going to take you to a whole new level of provision. I post every single day, and my friends think I'm crazy. Every single day. I challenged myself last year for 100 days. And I was actually reading a 100-day devotional at the time. So I challenged myself to post for 100 days, right? And to feed God's people. Because when you feed, you also lead them into something, right? And so I challenged myself to post for 100 days. I get through the 100 days, and baby, it was a struggle. I was on the struggle bus, okay? Almost every day, I was like, ooh, what am I going to post today? But here's the thing. The Lord began to speak to me even the more. Every single morning when I woke up, he said, here's what I want you to tell them today. Because I had become so consistent with feeding his people. He became so consistent with feeding me something for them. Because your first pour is from heaven. Your first pour is from him. If you don't pour, you don't gain that pour first, your pour will be poor. And you don't want your pour to be poor. So if you're going to be consistent in some things, it means that you challenge yourself. Say, you know what, I'm going to step out for such and such amount of days. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure that what I do is I'm consistent so that I can see the promise, so that I can see the provision. Right? I posted for that 100 days, y'all. I made it through the 100. And guess what I'm on now? A whole 365. Oh, I just stretched my whole self. I ain't missed a day yet. January 1st came in. I was like, God, I'm going to feed your people every single day. And I haven't missed a day yet. Every single morning, I get up. I submit myself. I say, God, I submit my mind to you. I submit my thoughts. I submit my heart to you. I submit my will to you. I take on your plans. God, now I submit my business. And I submit the people that you have called me to serve. And every single morning, God gives me an instruction. And I use that instruction. I try to do it within the first hour because sometimes we can forget. You're like, oh, yeah, that was good. 3 days later, you're like, oh, I forgot to do that. I try to do it within the first hour, if not definitely the same day. And I have seen provision on another level, y'all, on a whole new level from that level of consistency and that level of seeking. You got to be consistent. What else did I see through the Proverbs 31 woman? Baby, not only was she consistent, she was confident. Even her husband was confident in her. She was confident. There's something that begins to happen when you step into another level of purpose and you walk in a level of confidence that can't be shaken. And so one of the things that I even pray for every day is wisdom. But as I pray for that wisdom too, I pray for me to see myself the way that God sees me. And in my morning confessions, as I'm praying these things over myself, as I'm seeing myself, I say, God, I want to see what you see. And as I see what he sees, I just walk in a whole new level of confidence. It's crazy that sometimes what we see in ourselves can be so disjointed. It can be so disconnected. It can be so far away from what God sees because all of the experiences and the things that you've had happen in your life. I want to challenge you to get in a mirror and ask God to show you you and also to show you what he sees. Everything will shift. Everything will shift. Everything will shift when you begin to walk in that next level of confidence. And the last thing that I noticed about this Proverbs 31 woman is, baby, she understood the currency of the kingdom. The Bible says that her trading was profitable. On this last point, I want to talk to you about business. Her trading was profitable. Her trading was profitable. And the Bible also says that her lamp did not go out at night. That tells me that she was prepared, that she was calculating her movements. Her lamp did not go out at night. But her trading was profitable. Can I just tell you that kingdom currency is so much more than money? But one of the things that you got to really tap into is your faith and your obedience. Because when you start to move into faith and obedience, you're going to see a different level of exchange happen in the kingdom and in the earth. Remember I told you I pray for instructions every single morning? There are times when God gives me instruction, I'm like, Lord, this don't make sense. This ain't going to make me no money in business, right? Like, this does not make sense at all. There are times when he tell me to give something away for free, and I'm like, well, okay. It was a seed, Lord. And there are times when God would say, give something away for free. And I give it away for free only to see 100-fold on that investment because somebody else came back and sold back into me or bought a service or a product, right? You got to treat people well. We are called to serve. We are called to multiply. And if our trading is going to be profitable, that means that you have your things in order and your business is booming because you decide to walk in that purpose to receive the provision that's attached to it. Okay? That means you got to be listening to those instructions every single morning. I hope y'all caught that because every morning I pray for them instructions. I work for God. I am employed by God. When you're in business, when you're in kingdom business, you're employed by God. And what I started to realize is that I can't be employed by God and not ask what I'm supposed to do and what I'm supposed to do that day, right? When you go to your boss, you ask, right? And because you asked in, listen, I take the same principles, and every Sunday at 6, me and God have a meeting for the week. The same way I used to have one on Monday mornings in corporate to figure out what the plans were for the week. I want to know, God, where's your hand going this week? Where's the grace going this week? What area do I need to, really dive deeper into this week? When you think about kingdom currency, I really want you to consider what gifts you have to be traded. What faith you have to be traded. What obedience do you have to be traded to receive kingdom currency? Because there are times when you put seed in the ground, it does not come back in the same form. Some of you are about to receive provision in the form of favor. Oh, my God. That's how I made it through that tour. That tour was thousands of dollars. And there are times where I would show up to places and they would say, it costs $4,000 to rent this building, but for some reason I'm feeling like giving it to you for $500. I normally charge this amount, but for some reason, I kept saying, for some reason, God is moving on my behalf. For some reason, things will begin to happen, and it'll happen so fast that your head will spin. I love the hashtag, you know what? It happened so fast. Because that's how fast it happens. When you step into your kingdom authority, when you step into that permission, and when you step into that next level of purpose, you will begin to multiply and monetize on purpose. Anybody ready to multiply and monetize? I want to make sure I leave room for questions. They told me to leave 15 minutes. But before we do that, if anything here has stood out to you, is like, you know what? That is something that applied to me. That applied to me, or this is something that I want you to do. This is something that I need to do. I want you to stand. We're going to just say a couple of decrees. Because one thing I know about moving in purpose is that it's a journey, right? Sometimes people think that it's a destination, and you think that it's, just something you arrive at. No, this thing happens over time. You continue to live, see, understand, experience purpose. So if anything here applied to you, I want you to say these couple decrees with me. I decree and declare that I'm a living testimony. I decree and declare that I am walking in purpose. I decree and declare that I use my gift to serve others. I decree and declare that I am not hidden but highlighted. Come on, say that one again. I decree and declare that I am not hidden but highlighted. I decree and declare that my purpose brings provision. Listen, go ahead, step into the promise, y'all. Let's step into the promise. Let's step into the promise. All right. So they told me to leave about 15 minutes for questions, and I got about 14, so I'm just 1 minute behind. I'm doing real good.
You are.
I was rolling.
Ready for your questions?
I'm ready for my questions.
All right. Another round of applause for Dr. Latanya Moore. That's right. She was I love your accent, by the way. I would try and do it, but
What accent?
What? I don't know. I don't know. Are there any questions, ladies, for Dr. Latanya Moore? She flew all the way here from Merca. So please, and also, please take advantage of this wealth of expertise. Yes, goody.
Hey, boo.
Why don't you come up here while we get the microphone?
I know this one.
It's less than a question. And I met Dr. Latanya about 3 years ago. So what she is saying, she's not making a joke about it. And this was just as she said, she's on her page. I'm from Barbados, so I came all the way to Barbados, not just for the conference, but she's the reason why I'm here. I'm like, if you are coming here, I am coming. And I was toying with the idea of doing something, and this was her message consistently for the last 3 years. And I was able to create a journal in 2021. And this year, I am able to create a planner and a journal about mental health. And I will tell you, she is the instrumental, transformational purpose for that. So I just wanted to present this to her. She doesn't know that she's getting it.
Go. Let's take a picture. Tears. Yes. Please drop that book so we can get your faces in the shot. You know. And turn it around so we can get the picture properly. Thank you. Yes. That's what we do here. We connect. Congratulations to you. Are there any other questions?
Let me just say that all happened in the DMs. It goes down in the DMs. I will coach you through a DM, okay? You come to my DMs, you definitely getting prayer and coaching, okay?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Trisha. I'm so happy
Hi,
you're here.
Trisha.
I'm so happy to be here. My question is, how do you okay, I feel lost.
Okay.
I'm not clear. What direction? I just feel
Yeah.
like I don't even know who I am. So I'm trying to figure that out. And at the same time, I'm trying to listen to God and I'm trying to. How do you find your purpose when you don't know who you are?
Arabashokoro. And that is when you spend quality time with your Father. Quality time. You get to know him, you get to know his character, and you get to know you through him. Before all these things happened in your life, before you became confused, before you felt lost, right? He had a purpose and a plan for you. And I'll tell you, it's going to be found in him. I had no idea that I could have a relationship with God, and I had no idea what my identity was until I was 30 years old. And one of the things that I started to do was pray at 5:30 every single day. Praying at 5:30, and after 2 weeks, I'm in the microwave. I'm in the kitchen. The microwave is going. I'm cooking some food, and I look, and all of a sudden, I feel the presence of God all over me. And I'm like, what is going on? And I look at the time, and it says 5:30. And it's like God was saying, what are you doing? It's our time together. I had become so regular with God that he recognized that I was not there. So I would recommend that you get so regular with God that you recognize when he is there. And you will begin to find yourself in him and through him. He will show you yourself. Yeah.
What's your name? Trisha, by lunchtime, you'll have about 10, 16 women ready to help you find who you are.
Yeah.
Can I trust you on that? Do we have any more questions?
No.
True? Oh. What's your name?
Trina.
Trisha and Trina.
Hi, Dr. Moore.
Hi.
I just discovered you. I had no idea you existed.
Really?
But
Praise
I'm
God.
very happy.
I was seen like David.
I'm very happy. So you had mentioned multi-passionate persons, right? So I'm one of those.
Okay.
It does feel a bit overwhelming sometimes, you know, trying to figure out what to do when.
Yep.
I know what my purpose is. God has spoken to me, you know, through prophecy, Rhema word, etc. My career, my trained profession, my passion, and all of the gifts and talents don't seem to work together, you know, cohesively. So how, or do you have any advice for somebody like me who, I do believe that God can use it all, as you said. And I think he can use it all to bring glory to his name.
Yeah.
So how do you, and I know it comes down to time with God. I know that. And I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have children?
I do not have children.
Okay. Your business
You like,
is
girl,
your
you
baby.
can't help me because you ain't got no kids running around. But but I got you, though. I got some ideas.
How do you make it all come together?
Yeah.
With life.
Yeah.
You know, the busyness of life.
Business. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I am you and you is I, okay? When it comes to being multi-passionate, multi-talented, there are so many things that don't feel like they go together, but they all work together for the good, okay? But here's one of the things I have to do regularly is I ask God, what gift, what talent, what skill, what ability do you want me to use in this season? Right? I focus on the season, right? So God, what is it that you want me to use in this season? And that always helps me to narrow down, right? And seasons, of course, we know seasons change, season end, but God will begin to show me, right, where he's taking me and what I need to be tapping into at that time, right? It's even in business. I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I speak. So there are times where I know for sure that, I need to be going this consultant route. I need to be letting go, right, some of my one-on-ones. And that's only because I ask God, right? And I ask him, where is he taking me next? Where are you taking me next? Because I don't know about you, but I want to go where the grace is, okay? I like grace over grind. I ain't trying to grind at all. I'm going to put some work in. But I just don't believe we was meant to grind anything, okay? So I believe in grace over grind. So I started asking God, where's your grace going? Where's your hand, right, in my life? And those are the areas that I began to go to. And then the hard part is that you're not doing the other things right now. Ooh, Lord, because people know you for them things. And they're going to start coming your way and asking you questions like, here's some advice, but I'm not able to do that right now. The power of no is strong. It's okay. You're not doing that right now. This is what you're focused on in this season, right? And then I'll also say, what are the things that you can begin to string together? I love me a good acronym or a good alliteration, right? I love it when people say, I do faith, finances, and family. You know, anything that can fit into what I call pillars or buckets, right, are the things that God is calling you to do, and you can string them together based on your personality and based on your gifts, then you can do that as well. Yep.
Thank you so much. We have another question here.
Thank you so
What's your
much.
name?
Christine is the name.
Christina?
Christine.
Christine.
All right, you would have answered a part of it based on her, the
Okay.
response that you would have given to her. However, I like the 4 push, the 4 P's. It's very, very good. I love it.
Because the Lord be speaking to me
But
like an
what I
old school
really
Baptist
want
preacher.
to find out is how do you push against the oppositions when you're tired, overwhelmed, and frustrated to maintain consistency?
Yes, that's good. And that really relates to how do you balance it all as well, the other part of her question. So here's the thing. We're always going to have warfare, right? I actually started to prepare for warfare. You got to know when, like, how the enemy tries to come against you. And you got to start to prepare for it when things are coming up, right? So sometimes what you feel is tired is just warfare. It's keeping you away from, right, what you're supposed to be doing. So sometimes it's time to push. But you got to ask. But some of those times, when you're tired, you just need to rest. Rest is work in the name of the Lord, right? There are times when the Lord says to rest, and I make more money in a week of rest than I made when I was working, right? Like I would literally have people buying things, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't do anything this week but post. No, that rest, because the Lord said rest, and when you're obedient in your rest, the Lord will work while you rest. Okay, so knowing the difference and really asking God, am I tired because I'm going through something? Am I tired because, there's warfare and things going on? Or am I tired because I really just need the rest, right? And then I don't think there's any such thing as balance. Something is always going to do something, okay? And so I don't think there is a such thing as balance. I'll try to bring it all together in harmony. But there are times when I work on one specific thing. I give all my focus to that one thing, and something does not get done on the other end. Now, again, I don't have kids. So if you got kids, make sure you feed them, make sure you change them, make sure you, take them to school. But when it comes to that, I believe that even as a single woman, and I have a best friend with three kids, neither one of us have time. For some reason, right? It's like time is the one thing that escapes us, but it's also the one thing that we don't steward well. And so when you begin to learn to steward, again, that time a little bit more, put aside some things. I can't do this right now. You're going to begin to see more harmony, not necessarily balance, but a little bit more harmony.
Thank you.